other seats here. And all right, all right. Okay, here we go. All right. Hello, there we go. Now the mic's working. Hello and welcome to the Kino Corner. As you see, I'm by myself today. Oh, that's no problem. This one was going to be a shorter one. I didn't feel like going too hard to get myself a guest this time. You will see. There's not a lot in terms of news, trailers, or anything, and compared to the last episode, I think a shorter one is welcome. So yes, hello and welcome to the Kino Corner. We talk about the very best in movies, news, and trailers from a certain point of view. Now, as you can tell from the bottom right, we're talking about American history today with our good pal Nick Cage. That's right, the National Treasure movies. I won't be talking about the National Treasure TV show. Well, for two reasons. One, it seems to be unrelated to these two movies outside of theme, and I've also heard that it's not good, but more importantly, I haven't seen it. So yes, this is basically going to be just talking about those two National Treasure movies. All right, but without further ado, I think it's time we get started here with some movie news. Alrighty, alrighty. Like I said, there's not a lot of movie news, and most of these things are just kind of interesting nods of things to come. I would say the first, uh, the first is, and this is, I'm only talking mention this because it caught me so off guard. There's going to be a new Steven Spielberg film, and John Williams is doing the score. And you hear that news by itself, you just think, oh, neat. But two things about it: it's a new, it's going to be alien related, and it's coming out in June. And I'm just like, but it's one of those. Wait, what's coming out in June? Oh yeah, the Steven Spielberg alien movie. So yeah, this is like past green light. This is past directorial stage. Like, there's going to be just, could it be an ET sequel remake? Who the fuck knows? Could it be a touch up of Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Could it be something completely original? I mean, last time Steven Spielberg touched on aliens, we got one of my personal favorite movies, Super 8. So I'm not opposed to seeing another movie. I think the only reason this became news is because of the confirmation of John Williams doing the score, which is of course a fantastic thing. Like, I don't believe I need to say how good the John Williams scores generally are. We've all seen Star Wars. We've all seen all those movies. We get it. So, no, this is a light piece of news, mostly just to get you off guard. Expect to potentially hear more about it in the near future. War of the Worlds 2 Electric Boogaloo. It might be. Like I said, apparently this is a movie that is like, it's so far along that like they're doing the music for it now. And yeah, the and again, like multiple reports are saying it's coming out in June. That's why I'm just like, has this already been filmed? What? Who knows? This is a big mystery project, and but none of them say the year. Maybe it's June 2027, in which case they haven't started filming it, and that would make so much more sense to me. But all I'm hearing is like, oh, coming out in June, and mentally, I correct that to June 2026. But we'll see. We'll see. The second piece of news that is a little more interesting, nothing confirmed. However, um, there is currently a Netflix is putting up a bid that is to be considered for Netflix to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. So Netflix would have basic everything that's Warner Brothers streams, or like those online streaming services, would go through Netflix, which is this was also painted as a very small story, but when I saw it, I was like, this is not a small story. This is this big. And I don't know if this is good or this is bad. Now, again, I gotta say, this isn't like a confirmation that like Netflix will acquire WB. That's not set in stone yet. This is they're the most significant figure. They're putting up a bid to acquire them. So they have to formulate the amount, WB has to confirm it, and then there's a whole process. But the fact that this is even on the table, to me, speaks volumes of just where Netflix is as a company. That we could talk so much shit, and they've gone through crisis after crisis and go through bullshit after bullshit, and yet they still have enough money, enough following to just be like, I'm gonna buy the WB streaming rights. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that because they are getting a lot of good faith as of lately. One of the trailers to talk about is actually a Netflix exclusive trailer, so there's that. Uh, the, but yeah, this is just something to keep an eye on. Like I said, news is light, but it's two stories that are more about things that are down the pipeline worth keeping an eye on as opposed to anything that groundbreaking now. These past few weeks, probably because of Halloween, have been very light. I also learned making this. I did make a slide for it, but apparently October was a very like poor month for the box office. Like underperformance is an understatement. Apparently this is like their worst month since COVID, which is bad. And I think there was a lot of movies that people wanted to be good but didn't, and I'm just shit's expensive now. That's probably I think that's gonna fuel this decision, but we'll see. But with that, like I said, only two bits of news. We're gonna move straight on to trailer talk. Like I said, I have three trailers to talk about. One of them I don't have a lot to say about, but I know a lot of people do. Um, but we'll get there. But first, I mentioned there was going to be a Netflix trailer. This is it. Troll 2. It's not the Troll 2 we all know from the 70s or 80s. It basically a few years ago, Netflix did an original kaiju movie called Troll, themed around well, a giant troll in the in the Netherlands. And I really liked that original Troll movie because of how seriously it took itself. It's a cheesy B monster movie. If you've seen it, you'll agree it's a cheesy B monster movie. But it takes all this weird, just out there mythology of trolls, and it just rolls with it to where all these things are taken literally. You're just like, oh yeah, they can smell the blood of a Christian man. Oh yeah, no, their bodies are turned to stone when they sleep. Yeah. They just kind of do that, and of course it ends in Hall of the Mountain King, which is a fantastic song. And then we got a sequel which was announced. We went over the teaser, and the big draw seemed to be two trolls, but in this trailer, oh my god, in this trailer, they're going full camp, full cheese. Because yeah, there's two trolls, one seemingly bad troll and one seemingly good troll, and potentially mecha troll. I don't know, man. This is one of those trailers that just like, all right, I guess we're just reading the wrong thing from Godzilla versus Kong. Sure. It, and then I complain, but I'm probably gonna watch it. But not probably. I'm definitely going to watch it because it's coming out this December. But no, like this is just if you like mythology and or kaiju films, I really recommend the first Troll. And this one looks like it's just going to lean into just the fun, absurd aspect of what makes troll like well fun. For the next trailer we have is the closest we'll get to a War of the Gargantua's remake, more or less. The second trailer we have, I don't have a lot to say, but I know this is probably well, I think this is going to take the internet by storm. I don't know. It's been out for like 2 days now, or at least, and not enough people have really talked about it. At least, again, but I'm also not big in horror circles, so maybe they are. Scream 7. Okay, so the reason I don't have a lot to say about it is I don't hate the Scream movies. They're just I don't know. I haven't seen most of them, and the ones I have seen, I'm just like, oh, this is all right. I appreciate how different they are. I appreciate how like the first two, which I have seen. I appreciate the twist. I appreciate everything. I look at these trailers and I'm just like, all right, Ghostface is back and shit's going down. I guess. But maybe my lack of reaction and the fact that I haven't seen as much blow up about this on the internet. I'm not sure if this is speaking of if this is a testament to just how much the fans just are at least temporarily done with slasher horror like Scream, or how they're done with this franchise, or if this is just theater burnout. Because remember, I did say earlier that October was like one of the worst months for theaters since COVID, which is a big thing that I think a lot of theaters and streaming services are noting. So maybe that all of that's contributing to like the lack of hype around Scream 7. I don't know. Which it's easier to me because when I watch the trailer, I don't know, it doesn't look bad. It's just I'm not into slasher movies as much. So I just look at this trailer and I'm just looks all right. But I would imagine a lot of people would look at a trailer for this and they would tilt one way or the other, like either extreme excitement or just done with it. And I didn't see that per se. Yeah, yeah. This is very much going to be a movie where I am more fascinated and interested in the the air around the movie, like the atmosphere around it, than the movie itself. I want to know how people are going to react to it. I want to know how people are going to try to lore dive this shit. Who knows? Who knows? This is a movie that I it might honestly it might go by the wayside. I've mentioned before I think that modern horror is going to be ruled by like A24 and Blumhouse and as well as just random indie teams like people at Shutter. I think that's the future of horror. So maybe this is like the last hurrah. Who knows? Like I am not the person to really dive into the in depths of Scream. I have to say the trailer came out. I think it looks fine. Definitely check it out for yourselves if you're more into horror and or slashers than I. But the last trailer is one that really caught me off guard, and I think even though I'm not into slashers, even I recognize does look better than the one for Scream. They're remaking Silent Night, Deadly Night again. And again, just like with a lot of this news I did with like the WB, went by the wayside. But when I watched this trailer, it's like, wow, that looks interesting. The the big the big draw is like I think half of the movie is going to be from the from his perspective, from Billy Chapman's perspective. I think there's going to be a few people it's following, but I think it's going to show his like descent into madness a little more than the other sequels, which is good. Like if you remake something, you want the general beats of the story, but you want to do an extra twist, something like give it a little extra edge. But what also told me is the main actor. He is apparently has a recent horror history. He was in Halloween Ends in 2022. I haven't seen it, but I am aware of his role in it. As let's just say that he was almost Michael Myers, almost. They wanted to pitch it. Garbage Day, yeah, exactly. But more notably, if you don't recognize him, he was the father slash other character. I won't go into spoilers in Stephen King's greatest cartoon, The Monkey. And honestly, after seeing The Monkey, they got the right guy to play Billy Campbell. Oh yeah, oh yeah, this is gonna be funny. Yeah, I like how, and yeah, it's true to me. I said I wasn't into slashers, but here I'm just like talking about like Billy Campbell and like oh, we have to get the right person to play this. It's I don't latch on to genres, and slashers aren't like really my cup of tea. But like certain slashers, I could latch onto if they're absurd or just crazy enough. And Silent Night, Deadly Night is one that stuck with me because it was so absurd and crazy. So yeah, like yeah, like and the bigger news about this though about this trailer to me isn't that it's coming out. I mean, we're all excited that it's coming out, obviously. The bigger news to me is that trailers have not been on any feed. Like, I had to go digging for this. The trailer for this came out days ago. And I had to like find it on YouTube. I didn't know the trailer came out until I was doing my searches for like different movie news and trailers off of like Enterprise and Star and all these other movie like source sites. I had to find that oh yeah they're remaking Silent Night Deadly Night trailer drop so blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like pause what to find this like so I don't know if this is just people they think people aren't interested. I don't know if this is them not being thrown a bone or the people who are making this movie just sucking at marketing. But I don't know which way it is. But either way, I feel like I should be like telling people like keep your eye on this. They're remaking it. The trailer looks pretty like a good old time, especially again if you like slasher movies, especially if you like the original like or just that weird subgenre of holiday horror, which is definitely a weird subgenre. But probably one we'll talk about in the near future. I have ramen. I'm numb. Yeah. Now that's it for trail for all the trailers and news. Like I said at the beginning, this is going to be a very short episode. I'm looking at the time right now and I'm just like, I don't even know if I'm going to break an hour. I'm going to be honest with y'all. Like, because we have a few things to talk about new and recent films and two general films to talk about, then the wheel. But new and recent films. And as far as new and recent films are concerned, I've only been rewatching a few things in preparation is doing my normal Halloween watches. Happy Halloween, belated Halloween, by the way. Hope everyone had a good one. This is after Halloween, so I didn't want to make it the Halloween episode. That was the last one uploaded to YouTube. We did a VHS tier list, but anyway, enough self shilling. The outside of just all the usual suspects, the only new thing I watched in my downtime during some of the days recently where I had to go home early, but I started a series off Tubi that I've always been vaguely interested in, and I decided to just bite the bullet and watch the first two episodes. And I'm going to talk about it like the first two episodes here, and I want to talk about it again when I have time to finish it. It's called American Gods. And man, that series is weird. So I I get the general premise. It's just basically going into the mythology that ties into America. And because America is a melting pot, it kind of dips into the mythology around the world, especially European, like pagan, Saxon, all those other religions, with a splash of Egyptian and African. Like those are the main, which are, well, let's be real, those are like most of them. But then there's these new gods that reflect modern like technology and communication, internet, etc. And there's something going on in the background with you have one character played by, oh my goodness, what is the actor's name? American God. What is his Ian McShane? Most people know him from, I would say, John Wick. As of recently, he was basically the owner of the that big hotel, but he plays. Uh, I've okay because I'm a mythology buff, and they're treating his character very, like they're dropping hints as to who he actually is, because he's trying to keep his identity somewhat of a secret. But I played a lot of Age of Mythology recently. I played certain games recently. I figure if I say it, it'll give it away. But if there's visual cues as well as certain things he says. Like his name is also a hint in and of itself. He goes by the moniker Mr. Wednesday. And I already kind of, I'm just going to say I either know or have like one of the damnedest goodest guesses of who this guy actually is. Like, but yeah, like but first two episodes, American Gods, seems to follow this other character named Shadow Moon. Yes, that's his name. Going along, being hired by Ian McShane's character, Mr. Wednesday, to help him start something. And it's a lot of it's just the intrigue and figuring out like who this Mr. Wednesday is, who this guy, like what is he trying to do. Apparently, like it's already hinted that this is the world of the divine, the world of gods, and so we just trying to figure out what gods are involved. So again, I'm only, I finished the first two episodes. I started the third one, but when I started it, I intended to watch three episodes. I started it late, so I kind of started getting drowsy and I couldn't finish it, so I had to stop it. But so the only bit I got from episode three was at the beginning of each episode, or at little segments around these episodes, it'll cut to other gods and just either like some hint of their origin or just some instance of how they relate to something, or just maybe where they are now or they came from something. And some of the names I remember, like there's Anansi the Spider, there's, I believe it was Queen of Sheba, I think, and then there's Anubis, and oh my gosh, Anubis. First off, Queen of Sheba makes me freaking uncomfortable, but the Anubis is one of the best depictions of Anubis I have seen. Like as it stands now, they didn't name him Anubis, but they basically named him without saying the name Anubis, because they described like, we're going to tell you everything he does, his duties, and what he looks like. I mentioned the jackal and the scales. They're gonna they're gonna mention everything but the word Anubis. It's Anubis. But there are some gods that are name dropped, some of which are surprising. Like one that threw me off is Chernabog, which I swore I never looked into it, but I swore for years was just a made up entity for Fantasia. And I was proven wrong with the series. I don't know. I'm a big mythology buff, and so far, two episodes in, American Gods is, it is uncomfortable in some parts, but it's very interesting if you're big on mythology, intrigue, and that whole aspect of it. I'm liking it a lot. The visuals are trippy. The only two things I don't like about it, based off the first two episodes, one is, um, again, the Queen of Sheba, her scenes are just, they're just, so far. I'm sure there's a reason, but I'm just gonna say in a series full of all these interesting things, these awesome conversations with Ian McShane's character, Mr. Wednesday, and shadowing play by this other actor named Ricky Whittle, which I'm curious what he's done. I know I've seen him in something, but I am not sure as to what. Maybe I haven't seen him in something. Maybe I'm crazy. I might be crazy. You know what it is? I've seen him in passing in Hollyoaks. I think my parents watch Hollyoaks. That's what it is. Okay, I know little about what he's done. Okay, but I don't know. But the other depiction of the gods is Anansi the spider. Now, I don't know the direct history of Anansi the. I know he is a trickster spider whose roots come from the African. I know that from Static Shock. It's a very rudimentary, very basic understanding. Now, I also know that one of the themes of the show is it seems to be gods reacting and adapting to the current world, the current belief systems, and all that. And that's fine. It feels weird though when all these other gods seem to be doing their own thing, and then Anansi the spider just has the ability to just pop into like the time when like slaves are being loaded on ships for the first time, like the 1500s and shit, and then just talk about how bad life is for African American people in the 2000s, and use that to rob people. It feels weird. And again, if Anansi the spider actually has like some omniscience I don't know about, I do not know about the lore of Anansi the spider. I haven't looked it up. I've been too intrigued with other things in the show, like particularly again Mr. Wednesday. But even if that's true to his character, it feels thematically weird considering who, if what I believe Mr. Wednesday to be is true, that he's the only one to have enough omniscience and enough gumption to really preemptively act towards the future of humanity hundreds of years before it happens. So it just feels off. I don't know. Again, I hope there's like a reason for it. I hope it's addressed. It just some of the writing and hand depictions feel a bit jumbled amidst the, again, honestly, very very good. I do recommend at least the first season of American Gods is on Tubi. I've been trying to find the second season, but yeah. So far from what I've seen, good show. And that'll bring us to the main topic of the day. Well, bam. National Treasure. So last time, again, we joked that this is like the least Halloween topic of them all. Rewatched the first one yet, like, and then rewatching the second one earlier today during my like, editing and whatnot. You know, there are some parts of both of these that are a little unsettling. Particularly into, but we'll get to that. So, again, apologies. I have ramen and it is delicious. This ramen is delicious. But like these movies, the big draw are they're just adventure mystery films in the same vein as like the Da Vinci Code, or to a much lesser extent, The Mummy. But I'd say Da Vinci Code is definitely the closer comparison. But the two big draws for it are one, Nicolas Cage, but two, it's all about American history, the Knights Templar, and stuff that, from what we can understand in American history, are things that in some form existed, but were, as we understand them, likely not as grandiose as this movie would portray. So this movie takes the myth of like the Knights Templar and their treasure and everything about the Knights Templar, everything about it, and just exemplifies it. You have this family of Benjamin Franklin Gates, his friend Riley, and then a soon-to-be lover who basically is guarding the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. And they just have to follow the clues, get to this treasure, all through going a nice little romp of American history, talking about the founding fathers. The big cool thing about this movie is honestly how like some of the little tidbits that a lot of them are true. They tell you they and about like the founding fathers, like the Liberty Bell when it was moved, about the origins of like Wall Street and whatnot. Like there's all these little fun little history tidbits, and I appreciate that. I'm not like a super like a pronounced history fanatic, but I can appreciate when the movie takes the time to like take all this history and just like we're going to compound this fiction with actual reality here. We're going to like include things like the Liberty Bell, the lanterns of Paul Revere. We're going to include like there's the Silence Do Good letters. Like we're going to include like apparently like apparently there's like some truth to that ship, the Charlotte. It's weird. I looked up a few things earlier today. Like from what I can tell, the Charlotte is like a fictional ship, but it's based off of a real ship that got lost. I don't know, but yeah. The But I love just the idea that whenever like, oh, Ben Franklin invented glasses like these. Oh, I think he invented these glasses. This is a movie that if you think about it for like too hard or in the wrong way, you're gonna debunk the stupid very easily. You need to go in and realize, let's just have fun and watch Nick Cage go on a treasure hunt while we learn a little bit about American history. That's the mood you need to go into. Because if you start picking apart this movie, you're not going to. If you go for this movie like, oh, oh, what's with those glasses? They wouldn't work after 200 years. They'd basically be like calcified glass dust at this point. At the very least, they couldn't see clearly through them. Yeah, we all know, but we don't care. Because these movies are fun. Now, I will say that these movies, it's easier for people, at least in general, it seems, to look at these movies and have that suspension of disbelief. And I think where this movie succeeds, and where I think something like the Da Vinci Code definitely does fail, is the leads. I'm not gonna sit here and say Da Vinci Code's a bad movie. To a point, I do like the Da Vinci Code to a point, but where National Treasure, why I think a lot of people generally give it a pass about its just conspiratorial, like weird, like clue finding scenes, is because of its lead, Nicolas Cage. He kind of, it's Nicolas Cage. He knows it. He kind of lends into the absurdity of the situation. So we don't want to see an actor like we take completely and utterly seriously go on this conspiratorial treasure hunt. Like we don't want to see someone like Idris Elba going, "We're going to steal the Declaration of Independence." No, you get Nick Cage in a trailer shot. I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence, and all of a sudden, like, all right, we're in for a fucking ride. Let's go. So we're in for this treasure hunt ride, and along the way, we learn a bit of American history. It's a fun movie. Like that's the mood you're gonna go in. So, and I think because of Nicolas Cage's reputation, more people are able to easily latch on and recognize that aspect of it. That Now, that being said, uh, without going into spoilers, it's an older movie, of course, but obviously the treasure is found. Like the guy gets the girl, things happen, huzzah, history. And I'm not gonna say why, like why he was finding the treasure. It, other than let's just say it's family related. Eh, I could spoil it. It's been out long enough, but I don't know. Leave that for the people who want to watch. Give them a little, at least some mystery. The sequel though is a little more direct, and mm, I think it. is it does a lot of things better, but in a weird way is not as good. And I know that sounds bass backwards. So first, you got to understand is you have the main leads of National Treasure. You have Nicolas Cage, you have the friend Riley, you have the girl. Look up the actors' names real quick. I'm looking that up. Basically, yeah, Abigail Chase played by Diane Kruger and Riley Poole played by Justin Bartha. Basically, these three are like the heart and soul of the movie. You also have John Voight playing Patrick Gates. He plays a small role in the first one. He plays a also small role in the second one, but a little bit larger. And of course, Sean Bean is the villain because it's Sean Bean. But but these three, the part of this movie is basically like the main three: Nicolas Cage, Diane Kruger, and Justin Bartha. Like their characters are coming together for the first time. The dynamic is being established, and so you are learning with the characters how are these three going to get along. So a lot of there's because of that there's and again because the movie at least tries to take itself a little bit seriously while leaning into absurd like a 30 there's not a lot of quips. I think we're going to steal the Declaration of Independence is like one of the only ones. If nothing else, the sequel features Nick Cage doing more traditional Nick Cage antics. Yes, but like the first one, like the three of them, like are they're taking this seriously. They're getting to know each other seriously. We're learning with them. We're getting to know their relationship. In the sequel, we now know how their dynamic is, and now it's just like, what are we gonna do with this dynamic in a new situation? There's like new combinations. Like move this character here, move that character there, and I think that aspect of it is better, but what it sacrifices in this regard is we're losing a bit of discovery. Like we now know Nicholas Cage, we now know Benjamin Franklin Gates, we now know Abigail Chase, we now know Riley Poole. So, and the sequel takes a very personal thing for Benjamin Franklin Gates, and what it should be doing, that it kind of does. What it should be doing is because obviously you have a tendency to overreact. Yeah, what it should be doing, I feel, is touching more on uh John Voight's character, Patrick Gates, because considering it, like the first scene, I think is a good scene because it kind of shows that because we didn't see like Benjamin Franklin Gates freaking out. He's just like, "What do you mean you have a thingy?" And he's just looking at the situation, thinking, and Patrick Gates is just going nuts about the implication of what is brought to him at the beginning. I think this should have been a better exploration of their family, not just like the two of them, but like their grandpa, like letter whatnot, what they knew, what it means for their legacy, everything they were trying to hide. There, but like you kind of get that, but there is a good chunk of the movie that they're not there. But the other person it should have focused on, since we know the thing is the villain. Uh, we don't get there is a chunk where the villain is just not in the movie, and then they just appear. Like they appear in the beginning, they make this bold claim, then they're gone for like 45 minutes, like half the movie, and then they appear again. And like so yeah, like we have this established charm in the first one. Like we no longer need to try hard. We can just let the characters be, and their performances are great. But while we're watching them do things, it feels like we should be watching these new characters or these new angles to explore that it's just actively not. So it yes, National Treasure 2 handles the main three better, but at the cost of potentially exploring other new characters more. There's always a trade-off. Like it's but that being said, but as Griffin pointed out, like the other side is it is more comedy focused. There is more generic Nick Cage antics, but I think I found myself laughing at the first one more. Like one line that stuck with me in the first one, and that wasn't because it was particularly like laugh out loud hilarious, but because it just made me chuckle with how charming it is, with how just everything is. It's when they go to the treasure room at the end, and Riley just everyone's looking at the treasure, and Riley, because they thought they were trapped for a while, just looks around and goes, "Uh, stairs," because he's like getting a way out. It's like, bro, same. Like I don't know, because of these like charming, just kind of like silly, witty moments. I feel like I laughed at more at the first one than I did when the second movie was trying too hard. Like, and I think part of it is because the characters were trying to make us laugh when the first one proved they didn't need to try to make us laugh. They just have to act like they seriously would being themselves. Like Nick Cage already makes us laugh. We don't need him to try to be the comedian. We just need him to be Nick Cage. I mean, I mean, Willy's Wonderworld's a perfect example of that. He didn't talk in that movie. It's one of the funniest movies he's ever been in. But that all being said, I don't want to come across as someone who thinks that the second National Treasure movie is bad. It's not. Like I think I like both of these films equally. It's just I think one is objectively a little bit better because it's more focused with its character, with its characters and story. The second one though is more action oriented, but it's also a little more out there with the puzzle. That's the other thing. In the first one, despite everything I mentioned about like how oh, if you think about it for a little bit, some of the puzzle doesn't make sense, like how would the glasses still work? Like realistically, why wouldn't there be guards in certain locations about the thing they're stealing? But like there's a sense of believability, I guess you could say, as minor as it is in the first one. There was this air that you didn't have to go too far. Like, oh, people tell me that the founding fathers used these founding documents and these things where they frequented to put like some secret coded message for communication purposes. That sounds, yeah, crazy, but just plausible enough. But then you go to the second one, it's like you're telling me that there's a hidden code on the Statue of Liberty that points to the desk of the President of the United States that has half the key to opening the City of Gold. Uh, yeah, right. Like something about that. Like there's a weird amount of disconnect there. And at one point they mentioned that like, oh, they were going to use the City of Gold to bribe the British, and then which it feels like a moot point because in the second one they're like, oh, and the British like they wanted the South to win, but they didn't want to help them. Um, why? I don't know. That was they were. I don't know. It's just there are things that don't make sense that are like even within its own context that are harder for me to latch on to. Well, no, it's not that I can't latch onto them, but they're just comparatively they're a little more out there. They're a little more, eh. But even then, like there's still a little bit of true history there. Like I like hearing about the history, like the Resolute Desk. I like hearing about the multiple statues of liberty, and only one is referred to as his lady. I like hearing these historical facts. But this one definitely, the second one I should say, definitely leans so heavy into just the tinfoil hat conspiracy fake facts thing that I'm not surprised that the National Treasure movie series more or less died after there, and it kind of pulled back to a series. Which, while I won't be discussing the series in general, I've heard it's kind of it's not as good. Yeah. But yeah, it's but yeah. Aside, these movies are extremely fun, and they're worth a watch. I've never seen them like for expensive. They're easy to acquire off like a movie trading company. I think they're both on both on Tubi right now. I think both are Disney Plus. Easy to watch, great fucking time. Like I said, as long as you know you're going into these movies, it's going to be a silly adventure first, like a silly treasure hunting adventure first, and then like a historical fiction second. Like it's like you're gonna go on this adventure and like learn a few facts about our presidents. Like that's the kind of thing. If you go in expecting that, I think anybody can really enjoy these two movies. But I'd love to hear what y'all have to think about the National Treasure movies because I think that's more or less all I really truly had to say about it. Like I said, this was going to be a shorter episode of the podcast comparatively, but that's okay. Sometimes they be like that. There was only two movies to talk about. I generally like both of them, but more or less feel the same way about both. Outside of they're both fun. They're both grand. They both have Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is just a funny actor. Yeah. So, uh, in fact, yeah, we're not going to break an hour because we are going to go straight to conclusions. Like, yeah, short ass episode. It might be my shortest episode to date. But yeah, thank y'all for joining me for a brief time as we can. Definitely go watch National Treasure, other Nick Cage movies, and I hope you all had a happy Halloween. But you see, in preparation, part of the reason is a shorter episode is at time of this airing on Twitch. Tomorrow is the most holiest of holidays, Godzilla Day, Godzilla's birthday. I'm not doing a Godzilla episode this year. Timing and other things came up that I wish to do later on, but I hope you had a happy Halloween. I hope you will have a wonderful Godzilla Day, and I hope everyone watches good movies and enjoys themselves. So let's get to the ultimate. Are you all ready for the wheel? Yes. All are ready for the wheel. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. All right. So this time in the wheel. Most of the stuff is carryover from last time with two minor differences. It's like obviously instead of the guest decides, it says I decide because it's I have no guest. It is only me. It lands there. I will decide amongst these seven, and those seven are Waika, and, like a claymation stop motion style, like movie company. Yeah, it's the wheel. They've done a few movies. I haven't seen a movie from Waika that I've generally disliked, so I think they're worth talking about. While they still have a few things in there. Who goes there? It's the Thing. The idea being that we're going to talk about the early Thing from Another World, John Carpenter's The Thing, and the 2012 remake. Like all three of those movies, with a light touch on the short story Who Goes There that inspired all of them. There we have The Mummy, three movies in the Mummy franchise. With specifically, this is Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. You know, wrong side of the river. Insert memes here. But like it's those three movies. Watched them recently. They're worth talking about. I think I prefer Mummy over National Treasure if I'm being honest. But yeah. Uh, then we have replacing National Treasure. We have We Are the Men in Black. It's a topic I've kind of wanted to talk about. This one though is even though there's more Men in Black movies, it's going to be a limit to the trilogy. I'm not going to talk about the fourth. It's so it would feel disingenuous to talk about that almost entirely because it's separate from the trilogy. So part of it is because I haven't seen it. But if but in order to keep things consolidated, if it lands on Men in Black or outside of Men in Black, it's going to be the trilogy. It's going like basically the ones with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Now, of course, we also have critters. I like critters. I don't believe I need a justification for that. Then we have the Cloverfield trilogy. Yay! Everything's fine. Everything's Schmidt's fault. But and of course it's gonna stay on the wheel because I want to talk about it eventually, Jaws. So without further ado, let us spin the wheel. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm gonna put a critter ball on this freaking screen. Yes. Yes. It is time. And appropriate too. I think let me get the look at the timing here. This episode will be in 2 weeks. Yeah. Oh, the episode before Thanksgiving will be about critters and their insatiable appetites. Oh, the timing feels thematically appropriate. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Uh, but with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining me for however brief a time this was as we talk about. He's so excited he almost turned into Krusty. He is. I mean, I can turn into Krusty if you want. We're gonna talk. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about the Four Critters movies. I love the first one. I adore the second one. The third one I think is underrated, and the fourth one exists. Like that's. I I suppose there's others like Critters Attack and other things that are those I want to talk about them, but it's going to come down to if I can track them down, I will mention them briefly. The as it stands, it's going to be the four critter movies, and then the other two that exist if I can track them down because they are like independent to a degree and they're hard to come by comparatively. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, thank you all for watching. This and sitting me with this is a shorter episode, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.